the book that I wish had existed for me, because there wasn't really any sales for dummies book at the time. And then I started Atrium. So that's me.
I love it. Connor, over to you, my man.
Sure.
Any of you born after 1998? Anyone? So I have been in SaaS software longer than you've been alive. And that is kind of, because I do remember when I started with entrepreneurial adventures, this was in 1998. Do you want to remember the .com era? No, right now. It was actually quite an exciting time. And actually I started my first company at the tail end of the .com era, right at the beginning of 2000. And I thought it was going to be really easy and fast. Work for another entrepreneur. Everyone at that time was going like public in a year, and it was a very crazy time. And but then I did start my company in 2000. I was able to raise money. Actually, in 2000, still there was .com hack raised over $1 million. Really, I was in hindsight, I was very clueless. And but then I think 3 years later, I remember we were almost bankrupt. Like we burned through. We raised over $2 million. We burned through we had like 1 million left. Had barely any revenue. And then actually that's when I had to learn how to sell. I did like an MBA, like doing slides, and all of a sudden I'm like, shit, we don't get any revenue, we're going out of business. And so I think that was probably my, like, when it kind of became real. And I had to scale, it was actually really painful, but I had to scale a company up to 70 people based on money I raised, and I had to go all the way down to 20. We also moved to Chicago from the Valley just to save money. My co-founder was from there, and then we just had to start cold calling people and selling. And at that time, I met Matt Horniak from Larson. And he really taught me how to do that. He was a seller. Now he's been my CRO for 3 companies as well. And so I think learning how to sell was painful for me, but ultimately, I think the key any entrepreneur, I think you are always selling. And you're always selling to people, investors, partners, friends, your wife. Everyone, right? So I think it's so that was very good for me. And I think today what I'm building is a company called G2. Anyone heard of it? Hey, yeah. And Ryan Abramson, glad to see you. One of the key members of our G2 team helped us build it from the beginning in 2014. And also started out as a coolest salesperson. And now we got up a few years later. Really going with us. But G2, we provide reviews of software, but also I think we provide also for SDRs, BDRs, would be very useful. We can give you buyer intent data, and we can give you a lot of customer stories you can use to personalize your outreach. But with that, I'll turn it over to Lars.
All right, so my name is Lars Nelson. I got my start in sales right out of college. I joined a company called Xerox Corporation. I sold copiers, fax machines, and typewriters.
I don't know what a copy
Fax machines and typewriters. And the reason why that's, I think, important for this group is that Xerox put me through an 11-month sales training, onboarding, ramping, development, and mentoring program. In other words, I had a desk, I had benefits, I got paid, but I wasn't expected to do anything until after I'd gone through objection handling, negotiation training, closing training, presenting training. They sent me to different centers all over the country to do that. They gave me a manager who still today, after 34 years of being out of college, the best frontline sales manager I've ever had. And so I learned what really, really good looked like from onboarding, enablement, training, mentorship, developing, frontline, second line, third line sales leadership looked like. And that's important because 10 years later, when I got into the Valley, my first startup, there was no one in the company, including the founders, that knew anything about leadership or about frontline sales management. And I had it all. Not only did they put me through a management training program while I was selling, but I had some of the best leaders ever. So I knew what really good looked like. So anyway, I did that for 5 years. I ended up in the Valley in the mid-90s, 1995, when Netscape went public. the whole .com craze happened. I happened to pick a random company that no one knew, and what happened was it went public. And it grew so fast, and I went from a hardware rep to a software rep. Didn't know what I was doing, and instead of getting fired, I was asked to put a process around the inbound leads that were coming into our company. And so I started building a team. And back then it was called telemarketing. When I got to 5, my 5 reps looked at me and said, Lars, why do we have marketing in our name? We're out there pounding phones, pounding emails. And I'm like, I don't know. Let's change it. So we got in a room, we got a couple pizzas, we got a 6-pack or 2, and we came up with LDR, BDR, ADR, and SDR. And we decided on account developer rep. And that was in 1997. And from then until now, I've done the same 2 things at 4 venture-backed seed stage B2B software companies, and that is build out SDR and a revenue operations team. I've done it 4 times, and I'm stupid lucky. All 4 companies ended up going public. So from seed all the way to IPO. And I can tell you that other than the product and the leadership and the money, there is no doubt that all 4 companies got to that level and that scale because of the SDR function and role. So today, a lot of people know me. I built the SDR team at a company called Cloudera. I left 2 years ago to start my own small strategic SDR and revenue operations advisory firm called Salesforce. So I've been running that for 2 years, and now I'm helping grow SDR teams in a lot of the companies here in the valley.
Love it. We're lucky to have you.
Quick round of applause from everybody in the room who's an account executive, individual contributor today. Round of applause from the SDRs in the house. Round of applause from the leaders who have people reporting to them in the house. What does everybody else do? That's a pretty tepid applause, but okay. It's good to meet everybody. My name is Ralph Farsi. Today I run the global sales development organization at Tray.io right here in San Francisco. I started my career in February 1994 as an account executive for United Parcel Service over in Oakland across the bay. Yeah, what's up? Big round. And I was there for just under 6 years. You want to talk about catalyst events to kind of light a fire under you that you actually need to start selling a lot. Have a kid. How about that? So in October 1999, my oldest of 3 boys was born, and that was some serious incentive that I had to get my act together. And at the time, the .com boom was still happening, and so I jumped into citysearch.com and started selling websites to businesses that did not have a presence on the web, let alone know what the web was. So I went door to door throughout many cities in the Bay Area, talking to people about this thing called the World Wide Web, which is what we called it then versus the internet. That led me into an SDR role where I used to share all the best practices that I was finding from my own work with my peers. I would leave a voicemail, I would get calls back. They would leave a voicemail, it was 1 minute and 45 seconds long, they would not get a call back. So I would share with them some of the insights, very tactfully, very lovingly, about how to break that stuff down and make sure that you resonate with your audience. That earned me a job as the leader of that team, and that was my first foray into leading sales development organizations, which has been a true passion of mine for a very long time. Over the course of my roughly 25 years now in sales, half of it was spent as an individual contributor, carrying a bag, running a territory, etc., where the latter half is really centered on building and leading sales development organizations in particular. Prior to Tray, I led the team at ServiceNow. I got the team in 2015 when there were 75 SDRs. I left 4 years later when there were 225 people on the team in 15 offices. So I have been an SDR myself. I've been in AE myself. I've led very, very small teams at the seed through Series C companies, as well as the large publicly traded companies like ServiceNow. And it's a true honor to be here. The aim, I think, for all of us is to share at least one nugget that you can go ahead and apply tonight. My hat is off to all of you. It is Thursday night. You all want to get after it. You've clearly made a decision in your heads that you want to be very successful in your career and in your profession. And I just want to thank you for representing us and representing our profession and our craft. So thank you for being here tonight.
I love that. And Ralph, you already got your takeaway. Everyone have a kid, right? That's the first step. Okay, Ralph, I want to go back to you on this one. So we'll start with you. Because you had 225 reps at ServiceNow, which is an insane amount of reps. So what traits did the top 1%ers have that the rest maybe were lacking a little bit?
Great question. Tough to answer because we could be here for a long time with the traits, but the key ones were they had a killer attitude. They stayed in the sunlight. They understood that, look, our craft is a roller coaster ride. There are really crummy months. There are really crummy days. There are really crummy afternoons. But there is another opportunity the next day or 1 hour later. So they would keep their world small while playing the long game. And sometimes that meant working in 10-minute, 20-minute, 30-minute chunks. So that was a key trait. Secondly is they had a purpose or a trigger. I mentioned my oldest son was born. If that's not a trigger, I don't know what is. I knew that immediately the world was no longer about Ralph Barcy. It was about my son and it was about my family. And over time, as I had more children and my boys grew up, I knew that I had to set an example no matter what on how to be of service, how to be of service to others, how to lead by example, how to illustrate kindness, how to look people in the eyes and get to know them by their first name. That's what the A player reps throughout my career have always done and do to this day. I see it right now at Trey even. So great attitude. Understanding that we're all here trying to do our own thing and we all have our own individual issues that we're trying to overcome and navigate through. And starting with some type of compassion and empathy, understanding that everybody's kind of fighting their own battle, and then meeting them where they are. Those are just a couple of the common traits that I've seen throughout the career.
So just want to double click on that quick. So drive and empathy are the two things I kind of heard there. How did you test for those things? For the leaders in the room, how are you testing for driving?
Yeah, for the leaders in the room, if that's what you're trying to attract into your organization, you have to keep that in mind first. We're not here pursuing people, we're here to attract people. So that means you as a leader, you need to be already illustrating that by example. Because A players don't want to play for B teams. They want to play for A teams and they want to play for A coaches. So be mindful of how you're perceived in our marketplace and what the prospective candidates might think of you, your brand, your company, other people on your team. And then in the recruiting phase, you have to be very careful about what job description you have out there and what it says and what type of audience that description is attracting. And then when you come in with interviewing your candidates, you're asking them about their proven track record. They could have delivered newspapers for the last 2 years, but if they took things from X to Y in that given time frame, and they can show you how they did it and precisely what they did to accomplish that, those are some key areas where you can actually gauge and quantify that type of track record.
Excellent advice. I like that. Lars, you were going to add to that of characteristics of these unicorn reps.
Yeah, but first of all, Ralph does a great job helping reps that are just starting out understand the power of personal brand. So if you Google Ralph Barcy and personal brand, you can probably come up with 2 or 3 different sessions at different sub-events where you can listen to. It's unbelievable. I send all my new reps to listen to Ralph talk about how to build personal brand. For me, I look for two things. Fear. You cannot be afraid if you want to go into sales. And the other thing I look for is a lot of people call it grit. I have a different name for it. I call it fire in the belly. I used to think that the best predictor of future success was past success. That's not the case. I don't believe that anymore. I believe that earlier in my career, when the telemarketers I was hiring were 10 to 15 years older than the ones I'm hiring today. What I realized is that fire in the belly, that thing that you either have it or you don't, it comes from your upbringing partly, and it comes from the peer group you had when you were in high school and college. Because when you get out of college, you know what track you're on, and you know kind of where you're going. And so I spent a lot of my time when I interview, I don't want to understand where they succeeded or failed. I want to understand about their background. Where did they grow up? What did they do during their college summers? Right? If someone blanked during a college summer when they were 18, 19, 20, 21, when they were an adult, and they had nothing to show for it, how serious are you taking a life that you want to start as a maybe young sales rep at 22, 23? So I spend a lot of time trying to understand, does this individual have fire in the belly? And then if I hire them, when I hire them, I don't want them to be afraid. When I come in the morning and I see a bunch of SDRs or ISRs going into phone booths because they're afraid to speak out loud and proud because they just don't know the script. That's something you got to figure out before you get to work. Do that at home. Practice in the mirror. But don't come into my bullpen and dive into a room because you're embarrassed, because you're not that confident or don't have the self-esteem to talk about the pitch. I hired a guy named Luke Hansen. I've never seen anything like it. Every single day when I came in, whether it was 7:30 or 8:30 or 6:45, he was standing up on his desk and he was on the phone. And he was always talking to someone, so he got to connect. I don't know, and he got connects more than anyone I had ever seen. And he never dove into a phone booth. He never dove into an open. So I think you cannot have any fear. And if you have that fire in the belly, you just know that will drive you to succeed in just about anything you do.
And God, I would love your take on this too, because you have 50 plus reps at G2 now. And you mentioned Ryan, who's probably one of your unicorn reps who now moved on to leadership. I know you don't directly manage them, but what red threads do you see the top performers you have at G2?
And I was thinking about that, and I think we're actually getting close to 100 now. And then we did build, I didn't mention this at the beginning, but we built two prior companies. The first one that was almost a failure, it was kind of bought by Oracle Machine. The second one, Steelbrick, was bought by Salesforce. But I think the theme, and Ryan did do a fantastic job for us. And I was also thinking about some other people, mentioned Matt Horniak, who just joined me in 2004. Jason Rosengard, another guy who joined us way back in 2004. More recently, we have Natalie on our team at G2. She just got promoted 3 years in. She sort of has SDR. I'd say in building, I agree with everything like Lars and Ralph said, and sort of fire in the belly. I think the other thing I think people call today growth mindset. And I really say getting better every call. And that's what I see. Some people kind of like listen, but they don't get better. Or even I notice those reps, if I'm helping them on a meeting, I think the good ones will take something from me, some story I tell, the way I tell them, and they make it part of their next call. And so I think it's getting better every call. And it's kind of a subtle thing, but that kind of thing, if you do that every call, every day, it just really compounds. And I think listening to and parroting others, I think is one of the best ways to do that. And doing it systemically, I do think does make a huge difference. And just to go back to Ryan, since he's here, because he started out essentially doing SDR, BDR, and then, because we didn't have any, I don't think. It was like, we just had like 5 very young people in Highland Park, cold calling people. But then he kept learning, right? And then became AE, became enterprise rep, became sales team leader. And now he actually also proud alumnus, but now he's VP of sales at TriNow. So it's like awesome to see people like that. But I think what Ryan and those people do, they just get better every single meeting and they learn from others. And they keep making their script, their talk track better. And if you just keep doing that, it just really compounds.
Yeah. that 1% every single day does add up over time. And I imagine there's a lot of unicorn reps in the audience because you guys are all, getting that 1% better tonight. So Pete, I want to get your take on this too. So you got MSP, you're absolutely surrounded by salespeople everywhere you look. Same question, what do these people have that the rest seem to lack?
Yeah, so I work with a lot of early stage companies, so I'm gonna focus this advice kind of like tailored to smaller orgs, so maybe sub 20, sub 10 person sales orgs. And those organizations are a little different because usually with the rate of change within the organization, the rate of change within the sales motion, and the rate of change in the product and how it like fits with the market is actually very high, as compared to like a more mature company where like maybe the sales motion is fully figured out, the market's kind of shaped itself out. And so by virtue of the fact that early on things are so dynamic, the sellers have to be dynamic. And so the way that you do that is it's related to what God was saying about getting better every day, but the mechanism by which you're going to get better, and this is both something that you can do as an individual contributor and something that managers can look at and leaders can look at from a recruiting and also a management standpoint, is just be extraordinarily coachable. And earlier in my career, I wasn't very coachable. I think one of the personal failings I have is I have a pretty high opinion of myself. And so one of the problems I paid him off earlier. No, but I think it's important. It's important to understand, like, you can have confidence in yourself, but the important thing is that like that can't block you from being coached. When somebody is offering you feedback, whether it's a manager or a prospect that you like shepherd that on the call or what have you, like, it's important to embrace that and look at it as a learning opportunity there, because that's going to accelerate your growth. And it is related to what God was saying, but like the reps that are the most coachable, rather than being like, actually, man, like, screw you, I know what I'm doing. But it says like, yeah, you know what, you probably are right. I probably messed up that objection. Or yeah, I guess I could tweak the way that I deliver that slide or the way that I deliver that demo. It's just going to make it such that your speed of learning is going to be so much faster than if you're resistant to that. And so for the managers out there, I would also say that being aggressive with providing direct feedback. I'm sure folks have probably heard of Kimball and Scott's book, Radical Candor. You can read the article on First Round Review, it's shorter, and you get the same takeaways on it. But just the notion of like being able to both deliver direct feedback that comes from a place of care, but isn't bullshit and isn't sugar coated, that's going to accelerate the way that people learn. And then also, one of the things I advocate for, either entrepreneurs that I work with or managers that I work with, is to actually have their individual contributors read that, not necessarily the book, the article. Read the article so they can understand where the manager is coming from, so that you can take feedback well and you can take coaching well. Because in a dynamic environment where everything is kind of moving at once, and I was living in name tags here. A lot of you guys work at very early stage companies where the market's shaking out, the product's changing all the time, the messaging is changing all the time. You just got to be super coachable so your learning can accelerate as well.
Yeah, I love that. So true. And what's your name over there, man?
Sam.
Thanks for keeping it light. You have an awesome life. Sam's killing it. Sam's killing it.
These are all geniuses that either founded the space or, I don't know, I've seen these guys like 5 years of it. So,
Love it.
thanks for being here.
Thanks for keeping it light, Sam. All right, I'll just quickly add something. So I've managed BD teams myself in the past, and now looking at outreach and the growth we've had, and look at some of the top performers there. And I see two things being a superpower kind of in the modern sales era right now, and that's accountability and authenticity. Those are the two things for me right now that I see. You'll just smash it if you embrace those two things. And what I mean by first accountability is you're a team player, but you're not reliant on anyone. Your success is yours, and you own that fully. You are 100% the CEO of your territory, and you'll do whatever is necessary to hit that number. just like your company would die if you didn't hit that number, even though, you're lucky that you were supported by an organization, but these people don't think like that. If you need a case study to break into the enterprise, you're not waiting for marketing to make it for you. You're calling your best enterprise customer. You're getting some cool stats from them. You're getting a quote. You're learning Canva or Tiled in 3 hours, and you're building it. And then you're walking over to marketing and saying, "Hey, can we polish this up? I need this for tomorrow." And that's easy. I always say skills and knowledge now are democratized, meaning it's so the playing field is level. You don't have to go to graphic design school for 3 years anymore. Everything is so easy to learn. So if you have that hunger and that accountability, you can learn stuff and pick stuff up really quickly. So that's accountability. One more example of that is not relying on Salesforce admin or sales ops. If you need something to get done, go learn how to do it. Get a Google Doc, hand it to them, right? Everyone's busy. So you take that on. And then last, authenticity. Again, it's very easy now to bridge the gap of skills because there's places like this. So you can become an amazing SD leader, sales development leader, but you can never become a Beck Holland. Beck Holland embraces her authenticity to the max, and I think that's going to become increasingly important for everyone in this room. Goes back to kind of building that personal brand that Ralph talks about. But I'll shut up now and keep this going. Okay, so I want to spend a little bit of time on process. And Pete, let's start with you. I know you're a big process guy. This is your world. So do you see these top performers? Are they following the process they're given, or are they kind of creating their own? Are they pushing the boundaries? And how do you see them kind of structuring their day?
So I guess it's kind of stage specific, but let's assume that you're in an environment where the sales motion is known and it's not like, it's at least maybe not fully baked, but it's not like Jello. It's like, towards being more solidified. I think the folks that are most successful there are process orientated. And so one of the things I talk about a lot in my book, it's called Founding Sales, and some of the speaking I do to founders is dispelling misconceptions about sales, because a lot of folks have people who are not salespeople. Their experience with sales comes from seeing things in movies, most of which are kind of like old and outdated. And so people have this perception that sales is about like shooting from the hip and being charismatic and persuasive, and it is about being charismatic and persuasive, but in a methodical people fashion. And so the folks that I see have the most success really do structure their lives, they structure their days, they have a process, they view themselves as kind of like being the CEO of their territory. They view themselves as they manage themselves like a manager manages them. They are their own manager. And so some of the best kind of tactics there are being methodical with calendar management, slicing of your day, like this is the time when I'm doing calling, this is the time when I pop back into my inbox to look for replies, this is when I go back and maybe there's intraday cadence or operational rhythm, there's intra-week operational rhythm, and there's like intra-month operational rhythm, and just like how you have structured out and being methodical about it is really differentiated, because in an environment where like Slack is blowing up over here and like Snap and Instagram's trying to distract you here, and like a bunch of like bullshit on LinkedIn is trying to distract you as well. Like there are tons of product managers out there that are just like they are compensated on distracting you such that your attention gets pulled to their app as opposed to what you're supposed to be doing. So to the extent that you can manage yourself and be methodical, that you're gonna be way ahead.
Yeah, we got the laughing. Ralph, so similar question, but what is the time split that top performers in your eyes spend refining their craft versus executing?
That's a really tough one because it varies across the board. Going back to the structure and process question, so my friend Richard Harris once said that sales is a lot like jazz music. And for any jazz fans in the crowd, I highly encourage you, if you've not yet seen it, there's a documentary about Branford Marsalis, and it's called The Music Tells You. And I don't even think they ever converted it from VHS to DVD. It is such a deep film. And in that film, Branford is on a radio interview and he talks about freedom in jazz. And he says that there cannot be freedom in jazz music unless there is structure first. And the same applies to what we do every day. You can riff, you can go outside the bounds, you have to know when to play your instrument and when not to play your instrument, but you always know where those guardrails are. And you always know what that framework is that your company or your team or you yourself have to comply with and adhere to. So for the 8 players in the room, go do your thing, but respect the structure and respect the process. It's like when the ocean tide goes out, guess what? It always comes back to the beach because it is solid and it is structured. And you too can return to the beach once you go out for a little bit. But you gotta come back. All right?
Love it, love it. All right, I'm gonna switch the questions. We went process, let's go tactical. We are running, we got about 10 minutes. Lars, let's go tactical now. What are things, actions that you've seen reps do that have put them on that, in president's foot?
Well, it goes back to what you said. They never give an excuse. Reps who find an excuse for not hitting a number or metric, that's a hard one because you have to go into every day believing that you can do it. And it's on you. It's not on marketing. It's not on the product. If those things all conspire and everyone's not doing it, then you're doing it wrong. And that sometimes happens. I look at resumes oftentimes, and a 24-year-old has had 6 jobs. It happens. It's okay. Companies go up and down. Ideally, everyone said it. It is deciding what you're going to do during prime calling hours. I think it has a lot to do with what you decide to do before hours and after hours. And that's a tricky one because depending on what you have at home or not. Earlier in my career, when I was a sales rep for Xerox, I got into my territory before my competitors. I stayed in my territory after my competitors went home. I actually knew who my competitors were. The Kodak rep, the Nita rep. I knew if they were male or female. I knew, they had the same patch that I did. So I wasn't competing against Kodak. I was competing against Phil. And that fucker, I won. So, in other words, my point is, know who you're competing against. And it's not a company. It's not a logo. It's a person. And if you believe that you're better than that person, first of all, find out who they are. Literally, find out who they are, go to their LinkedIn profile, look at their background, and start laughing. Because you're better than them. And get to know where they've won, where they've lost, understand. And I think the best reps do as much before hours and after hours, and they find the time. And again, respect for those that have families and that have personal lives. We've decided to go into this startup, meat grinder of a industry. And I think you do have to sacrifice. I could have stayed at Xerox for 35 years. I didn't want to. I ended up at HP for a time when I got acquired in there. I could have stayed there and taken a deep breath for many, many years. But I like this industry. I like what we do way too much to. I'm not saying I would have nailed it in by staying there. You don't have to work that hard. There's no one that's looking over here. But there's also not this. It takes 5 years for them to move the show. Where every single day, everyone in this room, you move the needle for your company by getting that data, or by moving that stage from 2 to 3, or by closing the deal. That's what I love.
That's great, and I think we got a new hashtag for the evening. Hashtag find your fill. That's gonna be what we're going with. All right, I got the 5-minute warning here. So I love asking this question, especially with the careers that all you gentlemen have had. And Goddard, I'll start with you. Let's say I have a time machine. I just built it. Come on over. Come in the time machine. You get to go back to yourself when you're 23 years old. What you tell Goddard at 23?
The internet's gonna be huge.
That's a mic drop. I think we'll keep it at that. Pete, what do you tell yourself at 23?
Probably just to adopt a learning mindset. One thing I wanted to recommend on tactics is for everybody who's in this room. This kind of keys off what I was saying earlier about like managing yourself. If you ever read Jason Jordan's Cracking Sales Management Code, go read it. It'll make you way better at your job. And just like have a learning. I mean, you all are here to learn, so already good on you. But just adopting a learning mindset, a continuous learning mindset is extraordinarily powerful.
Totally. I'll share one quick thing that we say at Outreach, and I think that is great advice for any AE in here, and it's losing alone is a fireable offense. So the best reps, although they take complete accountability, they're not going to battle alone. They're leveraging all their executives, they're leveraging everyone in the organization to go and make it happen. So know that your organization does have your back, you just got to find ways to enable them. Lars, time machine, go back, 23 years old, what do you say?
So we had this thing, we called it 5 before 9 and 5 after 5. Those are the 5 calls you made before the workday started and 5 calls you made after the workday ended. I would tell myself 10 before and 10 after. And I say that because in 34 years of selling, it breaks down to selling is just activities. It's meetings, it's phone calls, it's emails, it's proof of concepts, it's demos, it's meetings, it's dinners, that's all it is. And it is a little bit of a numbers game. And so get better and more efficient at getting more in before, during, and after the workday. I always say to everyone that interviews with me, you have to be ready to work long, hard, and smart. And if that's what you want, I will put you to work and I will make you more money than you ever have. And I've always been money motivated. It's why I've always been in sales. And I hear that's kind of switching a little bit. I'm an old school guy. Being in sales has offered me an unbelievable opportunity to provide my family and create memories and dreams from me and them. So I'm saying.
Ralph, bring us home, man.
Yeah, 3 quick things. Number 1, this is my 23-year-old self. Dude, enjoy your hair while you. That's number 1, no question. It was such good hair too. Number 2, stop thinking about yourself. Start thinking about other people. Start encouraging others if you're discouraged. Stop thinking about you. Get out of your head. Face outward. Number 3, when you're doing that, you're going to show and share your work. So start chronicling all the things you're doing. The pipeline you're building, the deals you're bringing over the line. Start chronicling it, documenting how you feel through the process. Learn as if you need to teach someone the very next day what you're learning. Leave behind a trail of value, that will ultimately become your legacy. That's what I would tell myself. And I'd give myself a big hug.
I love it.
Damn it.
I love it. That's the perfect way to wrap up. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your insights. It's been an honor.
Thank you.
And we'll take a quick 10-minute break, and then we'll be back with that call-in.